Good evening, Vancouver. Welcome back to Canucks After Dark. It is Tuesday, March 11th. And if we had done this show yesterday, it would have been 2 wins, 1 loss, a fine week. Trade deadline wasn't great, but we're moving. We're doing okay in the standings, still fighting for that playoff spot. But tonight's game takes the wind out of those sails entirely. After a 3-2 loss to Montreal, after some pretty poor defensive play and a couple of struggles in net as well. So as always, though, joined by my co-host, Canuck Clay. How are we feeling today, Clay?
Parker, I was a little bit worried about you. The way you started the Good Evening Vancouver, I could already hear the pain in your voice, but I will give you props. By the end of your intro, you got back to normal Parker's Pucks levels, but yeah, your great point about Monday night versus Tuesday night. It would be different. We'd be over 500. We'd be a little bit more optimistic, saying, man, can't wait to see how they do this back to back. And now it basically makes tomorrow's game a must win, even though we kind of knew that already, but even more so now. I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah, 18 games left on the calendar, right? We're at that point where, chips are down. It's going to be essentially us or Calgary fighting for that last wild card spot. And St. Louis is there too, and Utah's kind of close too, right? There's a few teams competing for one spot, and you just have to outpace them all. St. Louis has won 7 of the last 10, and they're now tied with us in points, and we have just one game in hand. So obviously, this is a must win against Calgary coming up. We play the Blues next week as well, next Thursday. So those are the 2 most critical games on the calendar from here on out. A win tonight, first night of a back-to-back would have been really nice. The Habs are fighting for their playoff lives too. And so we knew they were going to come out and play. And in a game where the Canucks were, the better team for all but a few lapses, the game doesn't go their way. And now we're, 4 of the last 10 in the win column, and we're running out of time.
Wow. And I was bowling tonight. This is usually my Tuesday night thing, but today I was bowling. Not only it was double whammy for me, and because I sucked tonight, and the TV on my lane, Parker, didn't work. So I had to look, first world problems. I had to look 6 lanes down, and my eyes already aren't great in the first place. I just saw blue blobs moving around, white blobs moving around, and the white blobs were celebrating a bit more than the blue blobs. How's that? That's my analysis of the game.
Yeah, it's fair. It's fair, and it is kind of how this one went. And I don't know necessarily what order we want to go tonight in, because we have 4 games to talk about, at least briefly. We've got a trade deadline, which is going to be very quick, I'm sure, for us to get through based on what happened. How do you want to run this tonight?
You're the boss, man. I'm happy to do. We could do tonight because it's fresh, and then it will render the other 3 summaries pretty quick, even though 2 of them are wins. But I maybe for this one we go backwards because there's a game tonight. Yeah,
I'm good with that. We'll get this one out of the way. Let's say because there was. It was a weird game, because if you just go on to NHL.com, you're like, oh, the Canucks outshot them in the first, outshot them in the second. It must have just been, the goaltending wasn't great, whatever. And just by those numbers, that makes sense. However, this game never really felt like the Canucks were dominant. It felt like the Canucks had possession a good bit of the time, but were brutal in their own zone. Just from the amount of high danger chances given up, what it felt like. There was one point in the first period, and I think Ray even said it. He's like, Montreal has 7 shots, but it feels like 4 of them were extremely dangerous, and they scored on 2 of them. And you just see the types of goals that these are, right? They're all from dangerous spots on the ice. It's a bad giveaway in the offensive zone, right? To start this game, a minute in, Besser tries to play it down low, doesn't get it through, and it's a 2-on-1. It's sort of a pseudo 2-on-2 the other way, where it's kind of really a 1-on-1. But Marcus Pettersson just gets outskated by Nick Suzuki, who makes a sick move to the backhand and scores. And this is one that Lankinen doesn't. You can't really blame it on him. It's a great move. Sort of pulled him out of the net. You just need on this pass that gets sort of played through there, you need Pettersson to start skating backwards harder or start skating back toward the zone net harder sooner. His first couple strides are pretty casual because he's trying to break up the stick, and Suzuki's got jets, and he turned them on, and a minute in, and the Canucks are behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, and admittedly, I just walked in 5 minutes ago, so thank you for the 10:15 start, not the 10 for me. So I haven't even watched the replay. So was Bester's giveaway, was it that bad, or was it a good play by Montreal?
It was a fine play on the wall. It's just one of those ones where you got to get the puck in deep,
Yeah.
especially because there was 3 Montreal players close to the blue line in the Montreal zone, right? So it's
Great.
one of those ones where if you don't get it through or just fire it far side, it's going to be an on-man rush the other way. And what you'll notice is if you go to the second highlight, the second Montreal goal, you'll notice this video also starts in the Montreal zone, right? The first 10 seconds of this clip are in the Montreal zone. So it's just these quick rushes the other way. It's a board battle that gets won. This happens, 40 times a game, whatever. It's a normal breakout. It's sort of a weird flubbed lob pass out to the middle of the ice.
Yeah.
And then just like a punch play instead of like trying to take possession or do much with it. And then it sort of just turns into a rush where everyone's pretty casual, right? Myers gives a pretty big gap. Philip Heedle's not moving his feet. And Myers like gives this big gap and then like takes a couple strides off where he just gives a lot of room down the wing. It's a shot Lankinen should probably have. It's a good shot, but a shot from, the face-off dot, it's one that a goalie should save most of the time, but it gets through. And so it's just against the grain, 2 quick goals that really just killed the Canucks' chances in this one.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that part. That's a great point about the first. It shows we had 2 guys deep, fine, but then the F3 came back, and I'm looking basically when the puck went up in the air. I'm looking at a 1-on-3. It looks very, very innocent. Right?
Yeah, but it's this punch play that I don't necessarily get. Like it's sure it's a weird like lob pass, but like you have time to like if you're gonna punch it, maybe punch it to the side, like to the left there, because there's some room.
Yeah.
Or like try to just knock it down. It doesn't help that Tyler Myers skates into him as he's doing it. And then it's sort of just played into no man's land. Lekkerimaki can't really turn around onto this puck. And just everyone sort of gets blocked out. And it's just a weird, messy play. And the Habs are doing this all night. I can't count how many times Montreal took it from their own faceoff dot and lobbed it to the Canucks blue line.
Right.
And just sent, because they got some quick skaters, and they just sent skaters hard at the Canucks defenseman, hoping for mistakes. And that's exactly what happened.
That's a great point, especially if, Hronik's not the most fleet of foot. Marcus Pettersson, not the most fleet of foot. Myers, definitely not. And we see it on that goal. So great point about them. Yeah, that's probably a good strategy. And the Canucks do that too, but they don't have the speedsters to cause pressure like Montreal did on us. That's a great point. That's a really, really good point. By the way, did you see Adam gift us 10 memberships? That's pretty cool.
Yes, Adam, thank you very much. I think he got one for himself, I think too.
Oh, that's even amazing.
For himself. I think it automatically does that if you don't have one.
Okay.
But yeah, thank you, Adam, for the 10. If you got a gift from Adam, say thank you.
Awesome. And then Fangirl uses her 32-month membership message, proclaiming her membership for almost 2.5 years, which is awesome. Awesome. So thank you, Adam.
Crazy.
Thank you, Fangirl. We appreciate you guys.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
So first period, shots are 11-7. It's fairly even. Like if you look at the analytics, the Canucks, were far and away the better team. Expected goals 1.4 to 0.75. They were the better team. Scoring chances 9-4. Shot attempts 28-17. Right, all around the Canucks were the better team in the first period, but 2 goals against the grain for Montreal. Montembeault made some big saves. Dakota Joshua had a goal that didn't count.
Tell me about that one real quick.
Yeah, so it was actually both in the same shift. One where he comes on a nice little wraparound and tries to swing it far post, and it hits the post. And then the second one where he just comes out in front for a jam play, and it's not called a goal in the ice or anything. Like the play goes on for another 30 seconds, and then there's a commercial, and then we come back from commercial to find out that they've been reviewing this. And it's one of those ones that's probably a goal. Yep. But there's no frames of the video show it clearly, where it's Montembeault's pad is in the net probably by about the width of a puck. And Joshua jams it in there, and one frame, the puck literally is on its end like this, so it's as wide as possible. And if it had just turned 20 degrees. It's in the net. And it's like, you can't see white. You can see that it's probably right to the edge of the red. And there's a little bit of pad there for some leeway that it probably got up against, but they don't have, 600 frames per second cameras in there for some reason. I feel like they should. I don't know why they're running 60 frames per second cameras in the net cams, but it's one of those ones that it's probably a goal. If it was called in the ice, it's probably not getting overturned.
Right.
But it was just a jam play that that was as close as you can get without it going in.
Okay. So you're saying no concrete, obviously evidence that the puck was in, even though you think it was. Correct?
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, it's the right call to not call it a goal. It was probably in. That's sort of where that one's at.
Yeah. Hey, thank you, Swerve and Irvin, for the $3 donation. Yeah, yes, it's not intentional. We don't run from them, nor do we intentionally go head to head at them. It's simply because it's a Tuesday night that the Canucks played. This is our third consecutive Tuesday because of our schedules, and it just so happens to be after a Canucks game. So, but thank you for the donation, and thank you for choosing us over that juggernaut over there. But we're confident in what we do as well. Thank you, Irvin. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Second period, more of the same, a little bit less of tilt on the ice, though. The Canucks were a little bit worse in this period. They were still the better team in this period, I would say. Yeah. Again, except for the goal, right? This is just poor defending. That's all this one is. This is what should be. It's a quick up halfway through the period. There's 2 Canucks forwards pressuring 2 Montreal defensemen. There's a bad change going on the far side of the ice. So what should be sort of a 3-on-3 in the middle of the ice is actually a 3-on-2. And then you have a pinch on the wall that turns it into a 2-on-1. So this totally avoidable bad change leads to all of this. And it ends up being Suzuki and Caulfield on a 2-on-1. I don't really like the way, I think it was Marcus Pettersson was the last man back here. Yeah. Don't really like the way he played this. He didn't really play. He played the man more than the pass. Yeah. They always teach you play the pass. And look, these guys are good enough to do both. But he's a step too far back, right? You want to put that pressure on the guy coming in, but you also can't just leave the passing lane wide open, right? You sort of need to step up into the passing lane and then come back with the back check. And ideally, you just get down on the ice and make it so that passing lane's not there while you try to use your stick to break the play up.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. He doesn't do that. It's an easy pass over, and Lankinen just can't get over in time, and Caulfield's got a wide open net.
That's really interesting that Pettersson and Myers were on for all 3 of the regular goals, right? Not the empty netter, or maybe they were 2. And you made a point of the first and third goals. That Pettersson was a bit slow in his decision making and in his checking. Then I don't know what Myers is doing. Well, I know what he's pinching.
Well, Myers was pinching, and it was maybe ill advised. But he also probably is doing the count, and he's probably saying, "Okay, it should be a 3-on-3. I take this guy, and we got the centerman back." But the centerman's changing off in no man's land. And Myers got a piece of it too. He did disrupt it, causing Suzuki to have to turn around.
Right.
And it probably was enough time for Connor Garland to get back.
Sure.
If you watch Connor Garland on this replay, Myers breaks it up a little bit and Garland stops skating. And then Garland then realizes, oh, I'm the guy who needs to pick this up. And then he starts skating. If he continued skating that whole way, he's with Caulfield and this goal doesn't happen as well. So there's really 3 mistakes to compound here. And it's really just a testament to how bad this defense is without Quinn Hughes, right? Like it's such a huge hindrance. And these are just plays that, they can have 3 goals on 10 shots. You can be like, oh man, the goaltending must not have been good. But when there's so many chances like this that you have no way of staying in games.
Yep. Maybe they should let Quinn Hughes play in his non-contact jersey. They're just not allowed to hit him. Yeah, I'm sure that'll go really well.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Knuckleback. You know what we're good with? More gift memberships. Thank you. 5 from Knuckleback. Man, you guys are usually there's people are more generous when the Canucks win, but you guys are always generous here. So thank you, Knuckleback. That's 50 new members from my count. See that math there, yes. Parker? 10 plus 5. That's good, right?
That's great math. Thank you very much.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, and really overall, this period much more even, right? Analytically was close to a toss-up expected goals wise. 8 8 high danger chances apiece. It's more of a free flowing game, right? Both teams were just sort of going end to end, and
Yeah.
the Canucks were giving up better chances, which was the tough part. So we go into the third. Canucks down 3. It's one of those ones where it's like, you just got to get one. And this is even sort of what Ray was saying was like, you got to get one fairly early. And then really you get a bunch of time to get another one, right? Yeah. If you can score in the first 5 minutes, then you really have like 12 minutes to get another one, right? You get a lot of time to get one more, and then you can pull the goalie with 3 to play.
Yes.
And that's sort of exactly what the Canucks did in this one. It starts off with a Filip Hronek goal 4 minutes into the period. And again, this was, if you want to just see a masterclass in mistakes in this game, this is just a pass into the middle of the ice from the boards in the neutral zone, right onto Canucks sticks. They turn around and gain the zone. They play it back to the point. Hronek just waits, fires it through. It's a perfect shot on the blocker side post. Suter is mildly interfering with the goaltender to the point where Montreal actually like waited the allotted time to challenge it, then called the timeout. Waited that allotted time to challenge it. Meanwhile, Ray is complaining about how dumb the rule is, that he's like, if you can't make a decision before having to take a timeout, you shouldn't be able to, which I kind of agree with. And then they eventually decide not to challenge it. And it's one of those ones where it's like, it's maybe technically goalie interference because he kind of like falls back and like brushes up against him. They're not overturning this goal. I think it's a smart non-challenge by Montreal. Just what we know about goalie interference in this league, like that. You can't risk giving up that penalty. So Hronek gets his 4th. I think he's up to like, they showed a graph. He's got 9 points in 10 games that Quinn Hughes hasn't played in.
Yeah, that would make sense. Yeah.
So he's done a great job stepping up in those cases.
I do like, as I'm watching the goal visualizer, it seems like, you can tell me if this is true, it was a really nice play that Hoglander, Suter, and Sherwood all like converge on the puck right in the middle to get it back to Pettersson just to win that puck, right? And then 2 of them go to the net, as you mentioned. So that's good.
Yep. And then 10 minutes to go, Canucks get a really silly power play. This one, Montreal was heated about this. Shot from the point, hits Pius Suter sort of in the side of the knee. And it looks like it hurts, right? And so he sort of like does one of these, and as he does that, his stick goes flying in the air with David Savard all over him. They call it slashing because they assume, oh, David Savard must have slashed Pius Suter in the knee, but no, it was the puck. And then at the same time, Savard went to lift Suter's stick, and I imagine Suter got hit in the leg by a puck, loosened his grip on his stick in pain, and his stick went flying. So
I would, sure.
Savard goes to the box, and there's just a bunch of mayhem going on, and St. Louis yelling, and Savard just like dumbfounded on his way to the box. So the Canucks get a bit of an opportunity, and keep in mind, 2 minutes earlier, Pettersson was blatantly tripped behind the net by Jake Evans, and they didn't get called. So it sort of evened itself out. Canucks earlier power plays, atrocious. I don't know how many they had. They had
3?
2 previously.
Okay.
Atrocious power plays. Like they just never got set up. I don't think they got a shot on either of their first 2 power plays.
I did see that out of the corner of my eye. I saw them not even able to get in the zone and then just getting over the zone. And then, it was bad.
It was remarkably frustrating. This time they put Pettersson on the left side on this power play. Until they have the puck, until they set up, and they use this as an excuse, I think, just to get things moving. They do want Pettersson over on the right-hand side for his shot, for his setup, but this way he has to skate over there to do it, which at least gets some movement and some people switching around. And eventually this puck goes to Pettersson on the corner or up in the top of the zone. He walks in a little bit and just lets a wrister go. There are 0 Canucks in front of the net here. There's one beside the net looking for the rebound, but Pettersson lines this up perfectly to have 2 Montreal players screening their own goalie. Montembeault actually lunges left when the puck is going to his right, so he never saw it. It's a great shot, and it's one of those ones that's that little bit of hope that you're hoping that this one might turn around.
Yeah. Okay. So this is what I want to know. And username says he or she was there live, which is good. So Parker, did you feel with 8 minutes left or whatever that? Because I don't know, there's no sound on my TV, and it was 80 feet away from me. Was there momentum? Was a crowd into it? What was it, or just kind of okay? They're teasing us a little bit here. How'd you feel?
Not honestly, the Canucks were terrible in the third period. It's a weird scenario where they scored 2 goals in 11 minutes into the period, and they had I think 4 shots at that point in the period, and I think Montreal had 9.
Great.
So they were getting it was their worst period. They're getting handily outplayed. If you look at shot attempts period by period, the Canucks had at 5-on-5, 28 in the first, 22 in the second, 11 in the third. So they completely, they just ran out of steam and frankly played pretty bad in the third. And it was also, we're fully expecting a makeup call for that slash. So I'm expecting the Canucks to get shorthanded, and I just didn't really see it. They did get a couple good chances with the net empty, and then just some really, again, dumb mistakes with the net empty. It's, if you watch the empty net goal, it's just a bad giveaway at center ice, right? Like the Canucks put some pressure on, and then it's like Matheson clears it, Hronek blocks it at center ice, and there's 20 seconds left. He can go back to Pettersson, who's waiting for the drop pass to kick up ice. And instead, Hronek tries this pass to, Garland, I'm assuming that's Garland, who's now like cutting in, going the wrong way. So it's right on the tape of Matheson, and he scores from his own zone. Like there's just so many bad passes with the empty net. They struggled to get set up. It was extremely frustrating.
Man, oh man. Yeah, I saw that shot from distance. I see all the Habs fans all cheering, and I presume there are a lot of them there. Oh, 4-2, my favorite score, but I usually like it when the Canucks have the 4, admittedly. Yeah.
That is better, in my opinion. I agree with that. That's my preference as well.
Okay, so how'd you feel? So here's a thought. Then, did they talk about it on TV? Do you go Shilovs tomorrow, or should you have played Shilovs in this third period? So I presume Lankinen played the whole game, correct?
Lankinen played the whole game. I missed the intermission, like the panel and everything, but apparently that's what they were talking about. They were saying, should you just put Shilovs in for the third? And honestly, after that 3-0 goal, where the Canucks really weren't playing inspiring, I was kind of thinking, do you just put Shilovs in now, halfway through the second? Because frankly, this game means nothing related to what tomorrow's game means, right?
Right. Right.
And and again, going down 2-0 early, right? Like this isn't a game that you want to, have to have guys like Filip Hronek play 28 minutes when you have a back-to-back tomorrow, right? And you don't want to have guys like, Pettersson playing 20, and they really had to. They didn't shorten their bench too much, but they had to shorten it a good bit. And on the first of a back-to-back, it's just the worst possible scenario where you lose the game and you wear your top guys out. You're not going to have Quinn Hughes tomorrow, and you're going to have a goalie who's 1-6-1 in net.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to ask that. Do we know that Quinn's not playing for sure because he was only in non-contact today, and you got to have a.
I'm just making the assumption,
right?
Because it just doesn't feel like he's playing any. I don't know. Yeah. It's one of those ones where if there was a game to bring him back, tomorrow would be it.
It'd be cool.
Yeah, it'd be very cool, but I just don't see it.
Yeah, and then maybe they don't play Thursday, Friday, and then you have them on the back-to-back at home, right? The Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. Chicago's Utah. Hopefully. Yeah. Oh, who knows? That Utah game might be a must-win. Well, they're all must-wins now.
Pretty well. Yeah. 18 games to go. You probably got to win 11 of them at least.
Exactly.
Right. Like you're at the point if you win 11 of them, that's only 22 more points.
Yeah. No, so, you're right.
That would put the Canucks at 91 points on the year. Right. Yes. And that shouldn't get you in the playoffs, but it might this year based on how everyone else is doing. But you need to outdo St. Louis and Utah and Calgary. And that's a tough order, right? You have to win 11, maybe 12 of these games coming in.
I agree. Yeah. Before tonight's game, I know on my stream on the weekend, I was saying with 19 to go, you got to go 10-6-3, right? So there's 23 points, you get to 92. And I think I agree with you, Parker. I think it's going to be a 91-92 playoff bar. At least that's what the points percentage of Calgary dictates right now. So let's say you got to get to 92 points. Yeah, you need 23. and that you had 19 games to do so, and now you only have 18. So you're right. If they go 11, what is it? Did I say 18? Yeah, they got to go 11, 5, and 2. Right? There's your 20 or 11, 6, and 1. There's your 23 points. 11, 6, and 1, or wow.
Yeah, and Quinn Hughes makes a big difference. And, like we've seen a little bit more to Pettersson lately, right? He's got a couple of goals lately, and he's winning a lot of faceoffs, which is nice.
Yeah.
Did you watch the clip of that empty net goal tonight? Because he got a piece of it, like the highlight of Matheson's empty net goal.
Oh,
because Pettersson was back in his own zone. He reached one-handed and got a piece of it, which would have been a really cool block. So it's one of those things where it's like back-to-back tomorrow, back-to-back this weekend. I think they have one more back-to-back April 5th and 6th. So that's 3 Shilov starts, right?
Yeah.
You need him to win one of those. And now what's the math, right? Now it's, you got to win 10 and you can only lose like 4. It really gets thin.
Amazing.
Coming in here.
Okay, and we're definitely gonna go very, very thin on the 3 other games because this one's fresh and everyone saw it. Tell me about Petey. Tell me about Besser tonight.
Besser was slow.
Yeah.
Frankly, he wasn't involved really in this game.
Brutal.
He made a couple of decent passes. I think he had one okay scoring chance. A complete non-factor. Pettersson was a little better. He was obviously good on the power play there. It was decent on the kill. He was good in the face-off circle as well. I think he was probably in the 60%, 65% range.
Sure.
And he scored that goal, right? And he wasn't the fault on any of the goals against. So fine night. But man, overall, like just an uninspiring performance from the top guys, right? Like Garland didn't have a great game. Hedl was all right. Hronek was good except for the mistakes. It's funny because like he had his moments and then he had some issues as well. Lekkerimaki just couldn't get open for shots. Sherwood 8 hits. What can you say?
Wow. That's ridiculous.
He was throwing the body out there. Joshua had a really good game. It was one of his best games, I think, of the season. It doesn't show up on the stat line, of course. But those 2 big chances and he was driving that a good bit. But overall it was just not a fun one to watch.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, it was interesting too, Parker. Like, I basically, as you know, they have 7 home games in these 2 weeks with that weird back-to-back tomorrow away in Calgary, and then they're back home for another 3. And I was able to move some tickets today, but it was like for Chicago, it was for Utah, it was Winnipeg, and I don't know if people didn't like the rain or people don't like getting out vocalized by Montreal Habs Canadiens fans, but it was actually really tough to move tickets for tonight, and that's never the case for Canucks versus Montreal. So it just, I guess nothing you didn't know already, but more of an affirmation or confirmation that there's a lot of apathy, and that's, as we've talked about before, that's the worst thing. You should cheer for the team or say I don't, I hate them, but to say I don't care, that's the worst. That's the worst.
Yeah, and I was even curious this morning. I looked at tickets this morning. I was just like, what are they going for? And I was like, I can get in the building for like $75-$80.
Yeah.
Like
you probably saw my seats. I was the lowest one on Ticketmaster for a while.
Oh, really? I didn't look on Ticketmaster.
I should talk to you. Okay.
Stuff, but still, I was just curious. It's like, man, like that's a pretty cheap get-in price for, even though it's a Tuesday night, it's Montreal. They're only here once a year and they got a lot of local fans. So
everything you said is right. Yep. You're right.
And then of course they lost 2 days ago as well, Sunday.
Yeah.
I don't, did I even watch this game? I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah. I can talk about this one really quick because I was there. So I do remember it. They didn't play poorly, but Dallas is kind of a team where they're not like super flashy, but they just get the job done, whether it's Duchesne or Jason Robertson and that was without Rupi Hintz. That was without Miro Heiskanen. So you guys, Harley, who I've played more attention to because of the Four Nations, all these things. And of course, Mikko Rantanen. Wow, they are a solid. And it wasn't even Andre, man. It was Casey DeSmith.
Yeah, which so you knew it wasn't going to work out. Eh?
Yes, exactly.
This one's tough too because I did watch this game. I just have no recollection of it. I must have blocked it out of my mind. This is a game the Canucks were the better team Like they weren't. It sucks seeing losing 4-1 and you only get 23 shots, right? That's frustrating to see, because if you just maybe got some more chances, you might turn things around.
Yeah.
Analytically, though, like at 5-on-5, expected goals 2.7 for the Canucks to 1 for Dallas, right? Like 72 to 28% on expected goals in this game. High danger chances 14-5. The Canucks had 10 high danger chances in the third, didn't score a goal. If you look at the heat map on Natural Stat Trick, it is bright red in front of the Dallas net. So yeah, the Canucks, by all metrics, other than shots on goal, maybe, played a really good hockey game against Dallas, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, that's and so I don't worry. It sucks to say it, Parker, but that's a game you expect the Canucks to lose. Of course, you want them to win at home. You want them to win, play with some desperation, but it's not like a verbal free roll that I'm trying. But you do expect them to lose. Dallas was the favorite. They should have been the favorite, and they played like it. They're a solid team, a team that's gearing up to make a run. At Winnipeg, maybe not in the regular season, but obviously with the Rantanen signing, they're loading up to go far in these playoffs. So.
Yeah, and that one's tough too, because you can be the better team, and you can look at that and be like, "Hey, we were the better team against Dallas, right? That's great."
Yeah.
But there's no time for moral victories when there's 20 games left in the season. On the bright side, though, the game against Minnesota was the exact opposite.
Yes.
Where Kevin Lankinen was a monster. He stops 37 of 38. The Canucks put up just 20 shots. High danger chances in this game at 5-on-5, 16-4 in favor of Minnesota. Shot attempts 64-40. 70% expected goals for Minnesota at 5-on-5. And the Canucks won it, right? So it's just from that perspective, it sort of balances out. But just a weird couple games there.
Yeah, the Minnesota one was nice because it was a lot of Lankinen. And then I do remember watching this from my hotel room in Kelowna. I do know that Sherwood made a really nice play, taking off his skate right to his stick for that goal. And that was good because Minnesota is a team that's higher than the Canucks in the standings. So, and that was coming off their victory, which we'll talk about prior to that. So it felt good coming out of after the trade deadline that the Canucks had won twice. It felt good. It felt great.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt like, hey, maybe we can, sneak our way into the playoffs. And this one was good too, because Pettersson had this the slap shot on the power play, which was good. But yeah, we don't need to go super in depth on this one. And then a couple nights before that, the Canucks took it to Anaheim, took it to Anaheim, which is what we expect to see when you play Anaheim, not the result that we had last week. And this was, Carson Soucy scored in this game, and then he got traded.
Exactly. That draft pick went from a 4th rounder to 3rd rounder because he scored. I think that's the biggest thing. So
yeah. Shots 36-16. They were all over him. This game was so long ago, though. It was a week ago.
Yeah, whatever. Who cares? See, we're all about equal opportunity, even when they win. But it was 6 days ago. We don't care. Oh, well, it's not worth spending time on because we haven't talked about the trade deadline yet.
Yeah, I mean, they traded Soucy for a 3rd the day before.
How disappointed were you? How disappointed? Not for the Canucks. How disappointed were you? Truly,
quite. It's tough because I enjoyed the playoffs so much last year. Yeah, that part of me is like, man, like a couple picks and that's great, and it's weapons and you can retool. But I'm also like, I also want to make the playoffs this year. I had so much fun watching playoff hockey. Yeah. But just from a longevity standpoint on this team, right? I don't see the Canucks re-signing Besser, especially since that 5-year, $8 million contract isn't on the table anymore. And frankly, the way he's playing lately, it should not be. If you could get an asset for him, that like we were expecting to, right? The tweets all morning were saying, Sarah Valley was like, I expect Besser to be moved by the end of the day, et cetera, et cetera. Pius Suter, I thought was a gimme with, guys like Scott Lawton getting huge pay or huge returns. And there seemed like, and I'm looking at Pius Suter, I'm like, this is your prototypical deadline ad, right? He can play anywhere in your lineup, and he can score, and he can pass, and he can penalty kill, and he can power play too. Like, he can do everything. And I'm like, you're getting a second for this guy, no problem, all day.
Yep.
They don't trade Suter. They don't trade Besser, and apparently the best offers they got for Besser was from like Carolina for a first round pick, but then we'd also have to take Kotkaniemi, and they wanted a prospect. So it was yeah, the other teams clearly aren't that high on Brock Besser, and maybe that makes it so we can pay him a lot less. But I think he's going to go to free agency, and I don't think he's going to get paid as much as he might have expected to. But now you look at this, and when we were going in saying, "Okay, if you get a first and maybe like a C tier prospect for Besser, and you get maybe a second for Suter, and maybe you get a fourth or something for Forbert or whatever you can do, right?
Yeah.
Now, and then guess what? You go out next year, you package all those to get yourself a nice number 2 center, and then you can build in the wings and the D through free agency." And you can, try to compete again and try to be a top 3 team in the Pacific next year again. Yeah. But now we are really 4 months away from losing all 3 of those guys for nothing. And I'm going to put my money on it that we're not going to be having a parade right before that as well. Right. It's frustrating, right? Yeah. If they did make those moves though, then these games wouldn't matter. Right. Because we'd be like, look, the Canucks aren't making the playoffs. They don't have Besser or Soucy or Forbert or Suter. And Hughes is still out and Demko's still out and yada, yada, yada. Like they're going to coast and they're going to finish, 19th in the NHL and we'll run it back next year. Yeah. But now we've made all these moves. We better at least get some playoff games out, or we haven't made all these moves. We better at least get some playoff games out of it.
You are exactly right. There's so much to get into, but you're exactly right. Imagine if we move Besser for a first, as you said, Suter for a second or third, Forbert for a fourth or fifth. Now you have 4 draft picks because you add in the third from the Soucy, 4 draft picks and maybe a prospect that comes in the Besser thing. And yeah, you're right. You're not going to flip them on time on Friday for the trade deadline for help this year. So you sit back and you wait and you play the season out without those guys. You go to the draft. You have all these weapons now. And then, you say, okay, we got Lankinen and Demko for 1 more year. We've kind of shored up our D now with DPD and Villander coming and Mancini and then the veterans. Great. And you're right. Get 1 or 2 impact forwards and then forget about the season. Flush it. But because they didn't do any of that, we're kind of stuck in this no man's land and we're playing the same guys and we might not even make it. And you're right. No one's going to trade for Besser now because they can just offer him something on July 1st. Why would you give up assets to trade for a guy when you can just get him yourself? So, and same with Suter and same with Forbert. So it is quite frustrating that we're where we are right now. And one thing I was going to say to you is, so on my show, I basically said, we were talking about Canucks, right? And we were talking about the playoffs. And I basically gave them, I did a quick poll. And I want to see which one you would vote for, or which one you thought was the winner. I'd say, what do you think is the best for the, I don't know, I basically said, what do you think is going to happen for the Canucks in terms of playoffs? Is it, yes, you want to, no, it was, how do you feel about the Canucks making the playoffs? It was, yes, I want them to make it for the players. Yes, I want them to make it because anything can happen. No, I don't want them to make them because it gives, Canuck management a false sense of security, or no, I don't want them to make it because they're going to get killed by Winnipeg in the first round. So 2 yeses, 2 nos. Which one do you think? Which one resonates with you the most? I guess is my question.
In my heart of hearts, I cannot resonate with either of the no options.
Yes, exactly.
Because at this point, the benefit, even if you look at it from just to sort of counter both of those to start. Yeah. No for so one of them was because of the false hope for management, and stuff like that. I don't think this management group's dumb. I think they know that getting into the playoffs as a 7 or an 8 seed and getting throttled round 1, they're going to look at that and be like, yeah, this isn't, we're not good enough. We can't just do this every year. Right.
Yep.
And then also from the, the side of, what was the second option for no?
Well, you actually nailed it right there. It was that we're going to get killed in the first round. So you actually
right. Oh, you killed in the first round, right? And I think, and honestly, it's one of those things where it's like, who knows? Maybe they do something crazy and get some crazy goaltending and find a way through the first round. But then it's like, oh, good, you got through Winnipeg. Guess who's next, right? Have fun playing Edmonton or Vegas or whoever we end up, right? Now, you got to beat 4 absolutely unreal hockey teams, right? If you're going Jets and then the Oilers and then it's Vegas in the conference final and then now you have to get through Washington or Florida or Toronto or whoever. Right? The odds are astronomically low. but for me, it's not like it's not really a for the players thing either. It's
Mhm.
on why I do want them to make the playoffs. It's really selfishly for me, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I love playoff hockey, and
Yeah.
even if this team squeaks into the playoffs as an 8 seed and is up against Winnipeg round 1, and everything in my heart and in my brain is telling me they are going to get swept, I am going to be nervous all day game 1 or of
Yeah.
the morning of game 1. I'm going to be sitting on my couch. I'm going to be watching all the pregame, and I'm going to be fired up for puck drop. And and even if I know that they're going to lose that series,
Right.
it's, you know, it's the best hockey. It's so fun to watch, and I'll get super invested in it. And that's why I want them to find a way in, right? We don't get anything out of missing the playoffs. What, like 3 draft positions, maybe? Like, who
Yes.
cares?
Yes.
That doesn't help this team at all, ever. You know, it's at this point, like, I just want fun hockey. And even if that involves us getting throttled in the first round, it's, you know, it's better than sitting there and watching the other teams play.
You're right. Yeah. It's not like, if we don't make the playoffs, we're going to be not a lottery or a very, 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 very low chance. We'll be like team number 17, 18, 19. So it's not.
And think about if they win, like, let's say again, let's say they do go up against Winnipeg in round 1. Everyone knows it's going to be over, and they find some way to squeak out a win in OT in game 1.
Yeah.
Right. Because then you get into what if territory. Right. And then, you know, the next couple of days are like, hey, we just got to win 3 and they still have to win 4. And then, you know, and we still know, okay, we find a way to the second round. We're getting throttled by Vegas or whoever. But there's just that, you know, it's fun. And that's what I want.
It's actually, it's funny the way I was mapping it out. If we are a second wild card, technically we become a Central Division team for the playoffs. So you're right; it's just as bad. If you beat Winnipeg, then you got to play
worse.
Dallas or Colorado.
I think I'd rather play Edmonton.
Yeah, me
honestly.
too. Me too. Edmonton, of those 5 teams, honestly, between Winnipeg, Colorado, Vegas, Dallas, and Edmonton is our best chance, I think. But to get that, we'd have to get them to win the division, and we somehow get second wild card, which is impossible.
Hey, we're only 9 points back. We're only 9 points back of Edmonton right now. We can make up the difference. They're falling apart right now.
Right. If we win all 18 of our games, that's 36. Oh my gosh! Even if we win we only max out at 105, and that's not going to happen.
Hey, that might win the division.
Yeah. Oh, dare to dream. I like how you're the optimistic one right now. I like it.
Yeah, I'm so past the point of wanting draft position or whatever. Because also, like, who's passing us, right? Like, St. Louis and Utah, like on the east side, maybe like Montreal, and like I think the Rangers are still pushing. There's a bunch to keep pushing for the playoffs. I don't care about having 13th overall compared to 18th overall or whatever at this point, because that player isn't playing for 2 or 3 years, and they're not having an impact for 5. And that's just not our window.
And it's fascinating, Parker, this whole playoffs versus non-playoffs, and everyone has their opinion, which is great. They should. And I'm not going to sit here and judge someone because they think we should make the playoffs because it's fun or anything like that. And I'm not going to say talk against someone who wants us not to make the playoffs because of whatever reason, get killed, can't get their heart broken. We're going to get all these things. But I don't know how much more Canucks fans will take overall of just lack of success. So what's the best way of getting to that success? Is it actually going back one more week? It was actually doing something at this trade deadline, really, right? And that's what I think it all comes back to.
Well, that's the thing. I think if they had made those moves, I would have been sitting here being like, I don't really care if they make the playoffs or not, because that's because now it's all focused on next year. But now it's like, we already have these guys expiring. There's really nothing to gain out of missing. So I just, I'd love to see the boys battle and get in. And I think that also would be good for a lot of these players from just getting some playoff experience too, right? Like they got a couple of rounds in last year, but a lot of these guys, haven't really played playoff hockey they've been in the system for some time. I think it would be, it'd be fun.
It would be fun. It would be fun. And then we'd have more shows to do. We'd have at least another 2 weeks of shows. Well, 2 weeks of shows with content, I should say.
Yeah. Before we're having to start doing one a month in May.
Yeah. And already, April 15th, we're already recapping our preseason predictions, and
Our
we're wrong
predictions, and
on all of them.
we're saying, all right, well, we'll see you guys in 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Going to try weekly or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh. One last trade deadline question. What did you make of Alvin saying, if I was to tell you the offers I got for Brock, you'd be running out the door. I'd be running out the door. Someone's running. I don't even know what the quote was anymore, but it was just weird. It was just weird.
It was an English isn't my first language ism. I think it
Okay,
was.
that's fair.
I like, yeah, it was poorly worded. And it was sort of a dumb thing to say. You know, you could have just said like, yeah, we did. You know, he could have even just said we wanted a first, we didn't get a first, so we didn't move him because we're not just going to get walked all over.
Right.
And then that would have just been like, oh, well, fair enough. But the way he worded it was poor, let's say. Because then of course you start seeing all the details like leak out in the hours after that to try to do some damage control. And
yes,
you know.
yes. Oh gosh, there's so much going on. Okay, last question, and then before we get to the people, because does Quinn Hughes make much of a difference? Like, are we? The answer is yes, but is it enough where we're going to win games that we shouldn't and actually squeak it in the playoffs? And you're right. Maybe it's hot goaltending. Quinn Hughes plays out of his mind. Elias Pettersson figures out how to score. So same with Jake Rust and Brock Besser. No, that's a lot, right? That's a lot.
I think you insert a fully healthy Quinn Hughes into this lineup.
Yeah.
And I think they win tonight. And I think it's probably a couple more wins. Like that's probably worth 4 more points the rest of the way. Because you remember how different this team looks with them, right? Yes. And especially when you're saying, hey, put in, take out Victor Mancini or Elias Pettersson and plug him in, or Derek Forbert and plug in Quinn Hughes.
Yes,
that's a huge upgrade because as it stands right now, like this defense is a mess. And if you can have Quinn Hughes eating 27 minutes instead of and then throw Hronik on his own pair because he's shown that he can handle it. And then he can eat another 27 minutes. And then you only got to worry about like 6 more minutes. And then the game's easy.
That's true. Oh man. I don't want to get too off topic, but I'm actually excited at the prospect of, Verlander coming here, him and Mancini battling for the third. But do you play Verlander if you're in a playoff chase, the last 2 weeks of the season? That's kind of going to be interesting because, right, his college season usually ends. Usually those guys come in the last week of March, first week of April type thing. Who knows? Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah. When's the Frozen Four this year? It's April. Like it's mid-April. It depends on, I don't know what team he's even on. He's on Boston.
Yeah. Boston
College.
That's
is that the team? Let me check. Boston College roster. No, didn't get it.
No, he plays for. Who's he play for?
He plays for, as the web page is very slow, Boston University. Okay, well,
Boston University. Yeah.
Apparently that's different from Boston College. How's Boston University doing? Are they going to compete for anything? Impossible to tell on this website. Looks like they've won 3 of their last 5. I can tell you that. Just show me their record, man. They're 19-10.
Okay.
They were in the Frozen Four the last 2 years. So he's probably going to be playing in early April. So might not work. But I imagine they probably don't bring him in for that anyways.
Right.
Because if you're bringing him for like the last 3 games of the year and you're 2 points out or 1 point out, I think they're gonna stick with some guys that they know.
No, I agree with you. So they're going to be in and home free or out of it already, and I don't think either of those would be the case. I think this battle of mediocrity is going to go down the final 2 weeks, don't you?
Yeah, no one really wants it, eh? Like St. Louis is the only one that's been at least warm lately. Yeah. Calgary's won 4 of their last 10. Even LA, we're 6 points back of them. They've only won 4 of their last 10. Edmonton's won 3 of their last 10. Utah's won 5, and then St. Louis has won 7. So it's whoever really gets hot first. And that's why tomorrow's so important, because if you look at these next 3 games for the Canucks, Calgary, Chicago, Utah, three
Yes.
teams that the Canucks should beat, right? Because going into this year, we said the Canucks should be better than Calgary, and they should be.
Yep.
And they
Yes.
haven't been because Pettersson's been bad, and Besser hasn't been as good, and Miller's gone, and Hughes is hurt, and Demko's hurt, and all these things have happened that we should be better than Calgary. So if you beat Calgary, if you beat Chicago, and then you find a way to beat Utah, at that point you probably have a 3-point gap or maybe a 2-point gap, and then you can start building off that.
Yeah.
So it's these 3 games, all at home, or not all at home, one in Calgary, but then the 2 home games after that back-to-back are super critical.
I know you and I love to do this because we don't just look at the next game and then we say, okay, so if they win the proverbial 4-point game tomorrow against Calgary, take the 2 easy teams on the weekend, then they have Winnipeg, schedule loss, and then St. Louis, another team they're battling. Rangers, another team that's battling. And New Jersey, Islanders, Columbus, I get it's on the road, but there's a gap between every game. That's not a murderer's row of teams, Parker, to end off the month, honestly.
No, but it's also not an easy run of teams, right? It's all teams in similar positions, right? The Rangers are fighting for a playoff spot. The Devils, while, again, they're comfortably in third in the Metro, but they just lost Jack Hughes, right? So they're, a little bit weakened. The Islanders, right? They're similar in points to the Canucks, right? They're 4 points fewer than the Canucks, right? Similar caliber. Columbus has come out this year and they have 70 points. So it's really a run of teams that are right there with the Canucks. The next, what is that? The next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games, excluding the game against the Jets and maybe the game against Chicago. So you can call those 2 sort of canceling out. All the other teams they're playing for the rest of the month are the Canucks caliber. And really, if this team shows up, they can win any of those games.
It's true. And then, so as much as March, I don't know why we're doing this. We'll have like 3 shows before this time. But then I look at April and it's Seattle and Anaheim, teams they should win. And then it gets a little ugly. Then it goes Vegas, Dallas, Colorado, Minnesota. Yikes. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. You can't get to those last 2 weeks of the season outside of the playoff spot.
Yeah.
That's really the key. The Canucks really have 12 games to get into the playoffs, right? Because then, you get Vegas, Dallas, Colorado in a row and Minnesota. And then you get a nice relaxing game against the Sharks. And then you get Vegas again. So you really have 12 games, right? I think you have to win basically 8 out of the next 12, get yourself into a playoff spot, and then survive the last 2 weeks.
Right. So presuming, and then we'll go to the people for 5 minutes, presuming that we're doing our show on Monday, right? Next week, presuming. 3 games. Calgary, Chicago, Utah. 3-0, 2-1-1. 2-0-1.
2-0-1, I think. That the back-to-back is the problem for me. That, like, the Flames are also a problem. It's funny. I could see this being 3-0 or 1-1-1 or 1-2. Just because that game against the Flames is going to be the backbreaker, right? If they win that, I think they go on a little run. If they lose that, I think they look at the uphill battle they have and potentially fall apart. And it's the biggest game of the season tomorrow.
I'm with you. If they win tomorrow, I could see them having the confidence to take the back-to-back. And you're right. Now we'll be 3 points up on them. If we lose tomorrow and they lose one, if they don't sweep the weekend, they were probably looking at their season's over. So not to be over dramatic, but everything screams Calgary should win. They're sitting at home waiting. They've been waiting since the weekend for a tired Canucks team. But that kind of gives me a feeling that that's why I think the Canucks are going to win tomorrow. It's just a feeling.
Yeah, they just got to find a way to beat Dustin Wolf. That's really the key. I mean, he's been unbelievable for them. They just need to be better defensively. If Quinn Hughes can find a way to get on the ice for this game only, if there's one game you need him for the rest of the way in, it's this one.
Amazing.
Unfortunately, I have my doubts on that.
Yeah. All right. It is already 11:10. We will do 5 minutes of rapid fire questions. So get them in the chat and we'll get to them. Knuckleback. No, Demko has not played a full season since even when he came in the bubble. Actually, he was coming in for an injured Markstrom, right?
Yeah, he's the backup.
Yeah. I don't put any of our struggles on the fact that we let Mike Yeo go. That's just me. I don't know. You?
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not falling into that trap. I'm not a very big Mike Yeo guy.
Yeah. Are you a big offer sheet guy, i.e. go after someone who's under contract as an RFA somewhere?
I don't know what offer sheet candidates there are. NHL
Yeah.
2025 candidates. I'm actually
While you look it
curious.
up, no problem. Swerve and Irvin says both JT and PD had their best offensive season with Mike Yeo behind the bench. Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
So Capo Caco is an option offer
Yep.
sheet wise. Keandre Miller, Matthew Nyes, technically Evan Bouchard, although you're gonna have to give up a ton of you have to give up like 4 firsts if you try to, or like first, second, third if you're getting into that range, which would be a lot. Like someone like Keandre Miller, I mean, would be cool, right?
Yeah, but there's a reason why we don't see this very often, right?
It's not that caliber, right? It's we saw it with Holloway and whoever else got offer sheet last year, but it's never the top end guys.
Yeah. BC Beasley, who I'm texting with off screen, it's pretty funny, but not about this. Not sure if unrelated, but what does if you want to tackle this really quick, Parker, what's AAV mean with regards to
it's average annual value or average annual value, one of the two. So that's just money doesn't really matter in the NHL. Like when they get paid, it's all total contract value divided by years.
Yeah. But BC, that's how that number is so important because that's what quote the cap hit is. So you could have a cap hit of 8 million, make actually 12 million in cash, but no one cares about that. Well, the owner does. What everyone cares about when it comes to the cap is the AAV, which would be, the average, as Parker said. That's why it's so important when it comes to contracts, because you're never talking about salary. You're talking about the average annual value that counts against the salary cap, not the salary, not the cash itself.
Yep.
Do you guys watch old games on YouTube? I don't. I watch some fights sometimes.
Yeah, I occasionally, when they're in the playoffs, I'll do some look backs, but that's about it.
Yeah. Adrian says, do you ever wonder what we look like if we kept all the guys that left last season? Who left last season?
We wouldn't be good.
Lindholm.
I mean, if we kept Lindholm and Zadorov and we were paying them the money that we were supposed to be paying, that they got, this team would not be fifth in the Pacific. I think we'd be sixth. Because they've both been pretty bad in Boston.
Yeah. Good question from Jarrett. Tocchet's contract is up anyways, and both him and the team have the option. It's just a fancy way of saying they can figure out if he wants to stay or not, and they both have a choice. Do you think if the Canucks don't make the playoffs, it's not so much is his job at risk, is he might? I don't think he'll want to come back, quite frankly. I don't know.
I don't know. It's a super tough question. If they don't make the playoffs, I have no idea what I even want, because last year, if you take last year to the picture and this was where we are, I'd be like, let's move on. But with how good last year was, but also like, I'm not loving the going into a shell when you're up 2 and just allowing teams to come back into games, because that has been what has killed this Canucks team all year long. And he's one of the longest tenured head coaches in the league somehow. Because everyone just cycles through, and I wouldn't be shocked if they didn't bring him back.
I agree, and I think Alvin's job is safe. I think in the big picture, he's done more for this team than less. More good than bad, and maybe you can say this for the coach too. I think you can point to a lot of the drama stuff that was not in his control that brought the team down this year. So I think Alvin's job is safer.
And I think most of the trades have been decent. Most of the free agents, like he hasn't had any Jim Benning moves, right? Like the OEL trade and signing and all these other things that were terrible. He hasn't really had any terrible moves, right? Mm-hmm. Like he's had some that we might not have come out on top of, right? Like the JT Miller trade, for example, right? But we knew that was going to be the case, and that was really JT's fault more than anyone else that he wasn't playing up to snuff, right? So I don't think Alvin's been the problem here.
Darlene might want out of Buffalo, but as a number 1 pick in 2017, the Pedersen year, it's going to cost an arm and a leg to get him. And I don't know if we have the assets to get him. Yeah. He's a good player. He's a great player.
Great player.
He's a great player. Wow. And we did a pretty good job because we were actually quick with our answers today. We caught up.
All right. Well, we can probably call it there.
Sure.
Yeah, biggest game of the year tomorrow. That's that's one that if they lose that game, I'm probably watching a little bit less interested coming up on the following few games, just because I would know they need to go on a run. If they win tomorrow, I'm all in. Let's make the playoffs and let's get throttled by Winnipeg.
What time does it start tomorrow?
6:00.
Oh, okay. That's fine.
All
I'll
right.
make it work.
All right, folks. If you enjoy the show, we'll be back next Monday, 10 p.m. Make sure you're subscribed, hit the like button, do all that good stuff. If you missed any part of the show, you can find it on your favorite podcast platform in a matter of minutes. You can rewind back here on YouTube. Do whatever you got to do. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications on, so that way you don't miss it when we do shows at weird times all the time. Clay, any parting words this Tuesday night?
Yeah, no, it's good to connect as always, Parker. We'll snap our streak of consecutive Tuesdays next week, but yeah, we'll nestle in and talk about the big Calgary game, the big weekend games. Also, we always want to thank Adam for the 10 memberships, Knuckleback for the 5, Fangirl for the monthly membership message, and Swervin Irvin for the donation. We really appreciate your generosity, especially on a night where the Canucks don't play so well. And yeah, no show for me tonight. It's my church hour, so happy to take this one home and just relax for a little bit before. But Parker, thank you. And at least your hockey team won yesterday. That's something that the Canucks haven't been doing. Yes.
1-0 in the playoffs. Stuck one
There you
out.
go. When's the next one?
Thursday night.
Good luck.
Quick turnaround. All right, folks. Thank you all for joining. Have a good night. We will see you next week.